Welcome to the Invisible Cabaret podcast. I'm Ferrero Rochelle.
And I'm Rosie Verbose.
And together we run Invisible Cabaret, a performing arts troupe dedicated to opening up the conversation surrounding mental health.
Join us as we talk to some of the most bodacious burlesque babes, cabaret creatives and inspiring artists about how their creativity and mental health intertwine. Let's pull back the curtain and strip away stigma.
Please note, we at Invisible Cabaret are not mental health professionals. If you're affected by any of the issues raised in this programme, we've made a list of resources for you on our website, www.invisiblecabaret.org/podcast/resources.
Welcome indeed to the Invisible Cabaret podcast. We are joined by yet another fabulous guest. This person is a model, a photographer, studio owner and artist. You will probably recognise her picture, especially you guys in the burlesque community. We're just delighted that she's here. So welcome to the podcast, Sinopa Rin.
Thank you so much. Oh, the sweetest intro ever.
Our pleasure.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you for being here. How are you doing?
I am okay. Yes, I'm going to stop myself from the kind of obligatory I'm fine, because actually it's been a bit of a tough week, and if anybody is the right person to be honest with, it's probably you folks. So actually I'm okay. I'm very excited to be here, and yeah, very grateful that you guys wanted me to come on.
Thank you for being here. Rin, you've been modelling for a number of years. How many years have you been modelling?
I hit 13 years last month.
13, wow.
Yeah, which means it is racking on for half of my lifetime, which is terrifying.
Cool though, very cool.
Yeah, it is very cool. And I'm very grateful that I've had all the opportunities that I've had, and that I'm, still working and stuff after all this time.
Good. We were just having a look before as well on your Instagram for a little refresher. Just glorious shots. Glorious shots.
Thank you so much. Oh, that's so kind.
Anybody who can create those beautiful angles and lines are like, I'm in awe.
Thank you so much.
Do you see it in your head? How does it work?
It varies a lot. A lot of my recent Instagram stuff is self-portraits, because obviously I haven't been able to create with other people for the best part of a year. Even then, actually, sometimes it is complete and utter guesswork, and sometimes it is really, really specific and something that I can see in advance and kind of work really hard towards that outcome. But yes, a lot of the time, happy accident, and I kind of throw lots of ingredients in, and if we get a cake out of it, great.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. How did you get into, well, modelling in general, but specifically the lingerie shots, lots of corsetry shots? How did you kind of get into that niche?
Well, I started when I was just a smidge under 14. So obviously what I was doing then is very different from very young. It was very different from what I'm doing now.
Sure.
I started for one of those kind of faux agency scam internet things. Anybody in the modelling industry will know exactly what I'm talking about. And they're scams really, but I can't complain about them too much because it did kind of get me where I am now. So, but it's one of those where you kind of submit a photo and they send you a very flattering email and they say, oh, come to London and we'll do a free photo shoot and we'll give you a makeover. And, we're going to make you famous and we'll put you on the books and we'll do all this sort of stuff. And also it's going to cost you a huge amount of money. But we don't mention that bit until you get there. And of course you have this phenomenal day and you feel like a celebrity and it's amazing. And then they say, oh, you actually wanted copies of the photos. Well, that will be hundreds and hundreds of pounds, please. And yeah, I totally fell for it. As I say, I was 14. If somebody tells you that you're going to be rich and famous at the age of 14, then you believe them, don't you?
Of course,
so I did that. And so I got the photos back. And I had no idea what to do with them. I had no idea if I wanted this to be a career or a hobby or sort of anything beyond that point. I kind of thought if you weren't Kate Moss or Naomi Campbell, you weren't a model, and there was sort of nothing in between. And so I put them on Facebook, and a friend of mine who we went to school together, she was a few years above me, she'd started modelling year or so beforehand. And she's dropped me a message and she said, oh, you're getting into modeling. That's fantastic. And I said, well, I'd love to, but, I can't afford to be doing that every 5 minutes.
Right.
She said, what are you doing? What are you doing that for? Why have you gone that route? And she kind of introduced me to the internet modeling scene, the freelance modeling scene. And that was it. The rest, as they say, is history. It's not as exciting as lots of people think it is. I didn't get discovered in Covent Garden or anything exciting, I'm afraid.
But we've had enough of those stories. You know what I mean? Like, we talk to lots of different artists and we talk a lot about craft and graft in all of those industries, that it's not glamorous at all. It's the water cooler conversations and it's the work your ass off for 5 years to get a slight leg up, in the same that it's in any industry, In
a way, I'm sort of grateful that it happened that way, because I wasn't sort of given anything. That company, other than the photos, they didn't actually do anything for me.
Right.
They never booked me a job. They never put me in touch with anybody. They never did anything. So actually, apart from that little tiny leg up, everything has been my own.
They are but a footnote.
Indeed. But a footnote. I cannot even remember the name of the company. Not that I would name and shame, obviously, but I genuinely can't remember who they were.
There you go.
So, come on, this is a mental health podcast. Let's get down to the nitty gritty of it. All right,
Please do.
Let's get straight into it. As a model, especially one that does a lot of lingerie shots, are you as confident as people assume?
No. Short answer, never. No. Being so young when I started out, modeling has been a hugely formative thing for me. And in a lot of ways, it's difficult for me to pick out which aspects of my personality have come from modeling and which aspects of my personality haven't. It's been more than a job for me. This is a pseudonym, but just as many of my friends call me Rin as they do my real name, it is absolutely merged with my kind of real life persona. And a huge part of it is fake it till you make it. Absolutely. And if I'm not feeling confident about something, I will just pretend to feel confident about it. Today is a perfect example. Absolutely terrified to be here chatting to you guys. But, put your hoops on and get on with it. And nobody would be any the wiser.
Mm-hmm.
And I have then applied that to sort of lots of other aspects of my personal life where I kind of feel very, very nervous. But yes, put a nice dress on, put your lipstick on, pretend that I'm modeling, and then suddenly it all feels a little bit easier.
It's not a bad way of life, is it? I mean, there is a point at which you're like, if you suppress stuff, for example, then obviously that's not a healthy way long term. But everybody needs a little bit of put your lipstick on and your big girl pants on and get on with it, don't they? I mean,
absolutely.
We all do that in various ways. So does it ever feel like to you that you are doing more of the faking than the making?
It varies from day to day and minute to minute. Absolutely. And that's in modeling and real life. Totally. I worked with an incredible designer recently, Moody Corsetry. I worked with her recently and we've kind of been, she's been very much on my radar for years because her work is incredible. Mm-hmm. And she was posting about this kintsugi thing, I hope I've pronounced that properly, that she was working on, which is the Japanese technique of fixing broken pottery with gold. And obviously that's sort of become a metaphor, for broken things being beautiful, and which is something that I, really resonated with me when I was looking at this post of hers. And again, fake it till you make it. If you don't ask, you don't get. My complete cheeky attitude. And I just commented on it and I said, if you'd like anybody to shoot it, I'm sure people are queued out the door to photograph this for you. I'd like to put my hat into the ring. And she replied and she said, actually, nobody's volunteered yet. I'm going to pretend that it was because she had lots of options that she chose me, but that might not be the case. And she said, yeah, I'd be delighted. And because I've been doing a lot of self-portraits at the moment, and because I can do the whole thing myself, obviously in lockdown, it's fantastic for designers who want quality photographs of their stuff, that I can do it all on my own. So she posted me this fantastic corset and it came in this huge box with all this tissue paper, and it was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. And I opened it and I was in my pajamas or my tracksuit or whatever at the time. And I just opened it on the bed and I just had this moment of like, is this my life? Of, you know, this hours and hours and hours of this incredible workmanship that's been poured into this beautiful, beautiful thing. And I get to be the first person on planet Earth that puts it on my body. And I had this kind of total imposter syndrome moment of like, I can't do this.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that was a double-edged sword, wasn't it?
Yeah. And it was like, oh, I'm so blessed. Oh my God, the pressure.
Right.
But, you know, I did it. And again, yeah, fake it till you make it. And I went down to the studio and I thought, well, if I don't try it, I will regret it forever. The designer is incredibly happy with the image that she's received. I'm really happy with what I've produced. So a happy ending, but definitely not straight sailing situation.
Sure, yeah.
Absolutely.
So you do the editing and stuff as well yourself?
At the moment, I'm doing absolutely everything. So I do the hair, the makeup, I do the styling. Obviously, if I'm using something from a designer, I'll discuss the styling with them.
Sure.
But I kind of put it all together myself. I do the photography, I do the retouching, modelling, obviously. So yes, it's a full in-house job at the moment, but it hasn't always been that way, obviously.
That's so brilliant to be able to offer that, though, especially in lockdown. You must be a fantastic package for people.
I'd like to think so. Yes, it was more kind of out of necessity than anything else. I didn't kind of intend for that to happen. I've been doing photography sort of alongside my modelling for a very long time. And I found that the two really help each other because I can help pose models when I'm photographing models, and I can help photographers with lighting if they need it and retouching and whatever else. But I didn't spend a huge amount of time photographing myself, usually because there was somebody more interesting to point my camera at. And then lockdown came along and just that creative energy, you know, was sort of all bubbling up. And I thought, well, I've got to do something. So I started photographing myself, which helped my photography no end. And so I feel like I've sort of progressed more in the last year than I have in the last sort of 8 years before that. And then, you know, it was really, really popular on Instagram and stuff. And I had lots of designers contacting me and things. And I've set up some great relationships with brands and things that are going to continue going forward. Wonderful. So it was complete serendipity, but yeah, very, very lucky, very grateful.
Absolute powerhouse.
Thank you.
What's the difference been like in terms of you doing your own self-portraits versus being
working with other
the
people.
Model that shot? Yeah, exactly.
Well, the majority of what I was doing sort of professionally before that was modelling. So the photography was more of a hobby kind of on the side. It's been really fascinating from a mental health point of view to regain some of that body autonomy that not has been lost, but has been possibly compromised from literally half of my life being photographed by other people, having the way that I should look and behave and everything kind of dictated to me by other people. So to be able to have full creative control over what I do and what I look like and what I show physically, emotionally, whatever, has been really liberating.
I bet.
It's been really, really amazing. And as I say, you know, I started as a mid-teen and had a huge number of mostly men. I'm not going to turn this into an all men conversation, but you know, most photographers I work with are men, and I had a huge number of them sort of dictating to me, well, you know, you don't want to put any weight on, and you don't want to change your hair color, and you don't want to do this, and you don't want to do that, and whatever. And as somebody who is, you know, I suppose I was about 16 when I started getting really serious about it and started getting regular paid work. That's really, really formative. And it's been something that I didn't know that I needed over the last decade, to actually take a step back and go, hang on a minute, I don't have anybody telling me what I have to do or how I have to do it or whatever. I can be completely my own creative vision, which has been really lovely and is something that I'm going to try and hold on to going forward.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, do you think this is something that, you know, you carry on for the rest of your career?
I hope so. Yes. The industry is not always as progressive as I would like it to be.
That was very diplomatically said.
Very diplomatic.
I'm, you know, this is early days. I'm gonna try and behave myself.
No, I get it.
Yes, it's not always as kind of progressive as I would like it to be sometimes. For people who don't know about the modeling industry, I am a freelance model, which means that I don't work for an agency. So I advertise myself. I am completely self-employed. I have 100% control over who I work with and what I do and where I go and everything, which on the one hand is fantastic because I'm a control freak. But on the other hand, is a lot of hard work because I have to be a businesswoman and an accountant and a personal assistant and everything else.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't change it. I was briefly signed to an agency and it wasn't for me.
Okay.
But it means that the majority of photographers that I work with are amateur or hobbyist or part-time photographers. Lots of people look down their nose at sort of freelance or internet modeling, which I think is a real shame. Well, I've met some, incredible people and I adore my job. And I don't think it matters whatever level you're working at. I think you can always sort of give 100% to whatever you're doing, whether you're shooting for Vogue or shooting for somebody's personal portfolio or whatever.
That's so silly though, isn't it? Because you only have to look at what you create, both with people and on your own. And I just don't get how anybody could be snooty about that, why does it matter where it's going? It's gorgeous.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
I totally agree with you. And I think now that I'm sort of a little bit more established and also a little bit more of a bitch.
Yes.
I don't get that so much. When I was kind of in my late teens, I had a lot of people saying to me, "Oh, you've been in magazines. Like, why? What do you do?" And I said, "Oh, I'm a model." And they're like, "For what?"
Ah, right. Okay.
And it's like, well, and then you have to kind of explain. You go, well, it doesn't always have to be commercial. It's for somebody's portfolio in the same way that, as I say, they might shoot portraits or landscapes or anything else. Yeah, so people do totally look down their nose. But now that I'm sort of a little bit more established, as I say, I don't care anymore.
The hell not. It reminds me of the conversation surrounding kind of performers, actors, singers, and you're either a celebrity, you're either a star and you've made it, or you're a nobody. Like nobody really thinks about and it's that age-old question. Oh, what have you been in? Oh, you're an actor. What do you do? Tell me the TV shows you've worked on. It's like, actually, I work in theatre. Oh my goodness, are you in Waitress? No, I'm not, because there's more than just that.
Absolutely. It's exactly the same. Totally.
I want to ask you specifically, Rin, from a mental health point of view, I know you've said that you've loved the lockdown process of, really getting to create your own vision. Has that made a difference mental health wise? I'm thinking anxiety, body image, all that fun stuff. Has it made a difference?
Hugely. Yes, it's made a huge difference in very positive ways and not so positive ways as well. Part of that kind of reclaiming my body autonomy and, having 100% creative control about how I put myself out to the world for the first time in well over a decade, there is a lot of anxiety about now going back and working with other people and losing an element of that control. I have been conducting remote shoots sort of on and off over lockdown, which is fantastic. And it means that photographers can shoot me from wherever they are in the world, which has been, really, really enjoyable. And it's been lovely to maintain those relationships that I love so much. I'm a very, very sociable person. But on the other hand, as I say, losing an element of that control does sort of make me a little bit anxious as we start to kind of open up again.
Yeah. And body image stuff, what's that like?
It's changed a lot. I'm very conscious of being very body positive, which is something that isn't rife in the modeling industry.
Right.
My physique has changed during lockdown in a way that would be perceived by most people as positive. But I'm very conscious of not coming back out into the world going, look at me, I've lost a bunch of weight and I've started running and I've done this and that. Because none of those things were for anybody else. They were for my mental health. Yeah, I mean, I took up running during the first lockdown, purely so I didn't murder my husband.
Good enough reason as any.
Which has got nothing to do with him at all, because he is amazing. But just I had all this, sort of pent up energy and this frustration and stuff, because I wasn't traveling and things, for the first time in an incredibly long time. So I thought, if I don't get out, I'm going to just explode. But yes, so my body image has changed quite a lot during lockdown, because my body has physically changed during lockdown. But again, that kind of, having 100% control over how my body looks online, I can edit it or not edit it in a way that makes me comfortable. Again, moving forward, as I start to let go of that control, I will once again be giving people who are not me 100% control over the way that they publish my body online, which is something that I have to kind of reacclimatize to.
That does sound to be a daunting process, especially if you've done all this kind of reclamation, because obviously people can do whatever they like to an image. It's separate from how we feel about ourselves, isn't it?
Totally.
But it's hard not to let those things.
Very difficult. And as I say, my modeling persona overlaps hugely with my personal persona and vice versa. And I don't think I have ever met an artist who can truly separate the two. No. Because artists, we are fundamentally creative people, and I give so much of myself to my art that I couldn't possibly sort of separate the two. But I have been reclaiming things that I never actually knew that I lost. Because I started modeling so young, I never realized that I didn't have this body autonomy, and I never realized that certain things affected my mental health.
For sure.
And now that I've reclaimed those, the prospect of not necessarily having to lose them, but having to relinquish a bit of that control is daunting. But I'm hoping that I can kind of carry forward some of the things that I've learned about myself during lockdown, and sort of set up some boundaries and things.
Do you have a game plan for that, or are you just going to take it as it comes?
No. Me, game plan. Yeah, no. It's a take it as it comes thing. And because I work so closely with people, I don't often work with big creative teams of makeup artists and everybody else. The 99% of the shoots that I do are me and a photographer. So it's very personal, and they come to me with an idea, which may have come to them in a dream, or could be the something to do with their trauma, or it could be anything like that. I work with people on a really, really personal level, which I love. That's a big part of what I love about my job. But that does mean that it makes it a little bit difficult to navigate boundaries and things, because, everybody's different, and art in its very nature is a very emotional genre.
Because even though you're collaborating on a vision, there is also a sense that it is shared pressure, isn't it? That when you're doing it all by yourself, I was just thinking when you were reeling off the powerhouse of skills that you have, I was thinking I was actually reminded of our episode with a musician, where he said that one of his most impactful experiences was taking his album to the studio for the first time, because it was the first time anybody else had listened to any of it. And he was, as much as he was proud of it, he was also really nervous, because only me has listened to this.
Absolutely. And that's sort of been a part of doing everything myself over the last year.
Right.
I can't blame anyone else. If it's awful, it's all me. I can't kind of say, oh yeah, but the retouching on that was questionable or whatever. No, all me.
Yeah,
all me now. Even though I have felt that pressure my whole career.
Sure.
I think because a lot of the time it is always my face in a final image. So even if I had a 1% sort of say in what happened, if I didn't do the hair and the makeup myself, and I was posed by a photographer and I hadn't done the lighting and anything else, and I am a prop or a coat hanger, it's still my face in that final image.
Wow.
Which, when I kind of actually stop and think about it, is quite scary.
I just think you must have to, at some point, have such strong boundaries and sense of self to be able to do it and not get sort of chipped away by it.
It's a blessing and a curse, I think. In many ways, it has taught me to be really thick-skinned and to be very aware of my body. So sometimes I'll be tagged in an image online that I don't like for whatever reason. I consider it to be unflattering or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I have to separate that from my own body image. Otherwise, I would wake up in the morning and I wouldn't get out of bed, because the internet is full of what I consider to be terrible pictures of me. And I don't have any control over them. You know, I sign off commercial usage to images all the time. I have been on book covers for novels in other countries and things, and I have no say over that whatsoever. So I remember there was one, I think it was French. It was a French novel years ago. And there was a photograph of me on the front cover. And I remember sort of thinking, you know, presumably that is the sort of main character or whatever that has been sort of, this image has been chosen because I look like that main character or whatever. And I remember thinking, how many people all over the world are going to read this book and have an idea of this character, and then that's me on the front cover, and I don't know what this novel is about. I wasn't spoken to about it in any way. I got an email from a photographer saying, oh, hey, look, you're on the front cover of this novel. And that was it. And to this day, I don't know what that book is about. I don't know anything about it. Like, she might be a serial killer. Yeah. But that's my faith.
Right.
On the one hand, it's great because I get to be on novels and things all over the world, which is, you know, an amazing thing to tell the grandchildren. But on the other hand, yeah, it's just taught me that I just have to let go. I can't stay up all night worrying about this stuff.
That's so great that you have that strength of mind, that mentality to be like, do you know what, this is something I can't control, so I'm going to let go of it and I'm going to move on. And I feel like, I mean, this is now going to go a bit personal to me, but like, I feel like because I've worked as an actor, I can do that with auditions. I can go to an audition, and if they don't like me and I don't get the part and I don't hear from them, I let it go and I forget about it. But photos, I can't do that. I can't, like, if there's a photo of me, I read something recently that, it was one of those, it was like a meme or something, but it was like, whenever you take a picture of a sunset and it's not as good as the picture of the sunset, you think, oh, well, that's just because the camera can't capture the beauty of the sunset. And you should feel that way about yourself in pictures.
Absolutely.
And I'm like, what? No, I can't do that. So I'm in awe. I think it's amazing. It's amazing that you're able to feel
I'm not saying
way.
I manage it all the time.
Okay.
No, that's kind of what we aim for.
Yeah, sure.
And it's taken a huge amount of time. As I say, you know, I've been doing this for well over a decade, for half of my life, which people don't realise, you know, what a huge amount of time that actually is.
Sure, yeah.
I think, you know, because I'm sort of fairly young, people kind of assume that I've been modelling for, you know, 5 years or whatever. Right. And I go, no, it's 13. Like, this is a huge amount of time. And yes, I used to pore over images for hours and beat myself up about it. And, you know, I used to compare my body to when I first started modelling, and I was literally a child. You know, and if you've seen my photographs, you'll see now that, you know, I'm quite curvy, I've got big boobs, I've got big hips, and I physically, my bone structure is not the same as when I was 16.
Right.
And yet, in the wonder of the internet, people can compare the two and make huge assumptions or make comments about me or whatever. And I just have to let it go. I just have to leave it and just focus forward.
Yeah.
That's all that I can do. But it doesn't always work. I do have the times when, you know, I sob into my pillow about a horrible picture I've just been tagged in. So you're not alone.
Okay. Well, I mean, to me, you're a superhuman, so I'm glad to know that's...
That's so kind. No, I'm really not. I'm very, very much a human being.
Before we come into land, I have heard from little Birdie that you have got back into painting.
I have.
Talk to us about the painting and your art.
Well, I studied art at school. I was very art orientated my whole life. And up until I got into photography, I kind of always assumed that I would do something more artistic. Yeah, what lots of people would consider to be more artistic. Lots of people don't consider photography to be art.
Which is
again, who are these
yeah.
people?
Where
do we find them? Silly.
Well, I think because everybody's got a phone in their pocket now, everybody sort of goes, oh, well, I could take a picture on my phone, and
right.
No big deal. But of course, it's completely different in the same way that somebody could put their thumbprint in a bit of blue tack and call it modern art. Yes, you could take a picture of your dog on the sofa and call it a photograph. There's a huge spectrum in between.
Right.
Sure. Yeah.
Yes. So I sort of stopped painting really years ago, sort of when I left college, I guess. I did an art foundation degree. And that was sort of when I got really stuck into photography. I met my husband, who's a photographer. And it just kind of got left by the wayside because I completely got this photo bug. And because I was modeling, I just threw myself 100% into that. And during lockdown, I only had kind of so much creative energy that I could put towards photography. My husband will tell you that physically impossible for me to be thinking about one thing at a time. I have to be kind of thinking of 8,000 different things. And, I organize a lot of photo events. I've got the studio now, where I'm obviously a model and a photographer. I have got all these plates spinning all the time. And then all of a sudden there was nothing to spin. All my events were cancelled. My studio was shut. All my travel plans were put on hold. And I couldn't just do self-portraits. That wasn't enough.
Okay.
So yeah, I picked up some watercolors, and a friend of mine on Facebook was doing a little Instagram live thing every morning for sort of an hour, just doing little watercolor doodles, nothing sort of amazing. And she did it totally for free, which I think is incredible. We've seen so much of the genuine giving from people in lockdown.
Yeah.
And so I got up every morning, which gave me something to get out of bed for, which was also great. And I sat down sort of every day for about 5 weeks and just did little paintings every morning. And a lot of them are crap. But it didn't matter.
No.
It was sort of something to be doing, and something to make, something to produce that I could look at and go, oh, I did that today.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's probably about time that we wrapped up. As always, we finish our episodes with a section on what we're grateful for this week. Time to get grateful. So, Rin, do you want to start? What are you grateful for this week?
This week, I am grateful it's over.
Fair play.
Oh my God, amazing.
I'm very grateful for my husband this week. I'm not going to gush, but my mental health has not been fantastic this week/month. I've been really, really struggling. As I say, I'm a very, very social person. I have lots and lots of friends who live in sort of all corners of the country, and not being able to see them for a long time has been really, really difficult for me. And my husband has been fantastic this week in kind of keeping me sane and, just giving me lots of little reasons to smile every day.
Oh,
well done, Mr. Rin.
Oh,
Good
he's
job.
the absolute best. Recommend.
Oh.
10 out of 10 would recommend. Love it.
Well, it's our 10-year anniversary this year, so we can't be that bad.
Oh, wow. Congratulations. Rosie Verbose, what are you grateful for this week?
This week I am grateful because I saw my first person I'm not related to in the flesh since September.
Oh my gosh. That's so long.
No, it was a very long time. I love the people I'm related to, don't get me wrong. They're great bods, but seeing one of my longest termy friends and her little baby this week was an absolute cheer up. And since I saw the baby, obviously they a lot happens in a short space of time.
Babies grow.
I don't know if you know this.
Absolutely.
But so before she was like struggling to focus on me for field of vision, which as a performer is not on. Whereas now she's waving, she can say Nana and Mama and all kinds of fun things. So she's definitely improving.
I'm so jealous.
Yeah.
I love babies.
Yeah, me too. My brother and sister-in-law are due to have a baby this year, and if we are not allowed to go and see them, I'm going to smash things. Like, I can't. I have to be able to hold this baby, otherwise I'm going to burst into flames. So
absolutely.
I think that's a very good thing to be grateful for.
So Boris, if you're listening.
yeah, Boris.
Boris is listening. I've got a few things to say.
Yeah. Right.
What are you grateful for this week, for Rochelle?
This week I am grateful for springtime in general.
Nice.
But specifically, I feel like such an old lady, but specifically my seeds that I've been growing on my terrace.
That's wholesome.
That's so wholesome.
Thank you.
Living your best cottagecore life.
I really am. I don't really know. Oh no, I do know what inspired. I was about to say I don't know what inspired me to do it, but I do know what inspired me to do it. I think for my birthday, lovely Belle Blue Stocking, one of our performers, bought me The Wild Journal by Willow Crossley, which is, as it sounds, a journal of all things like gardeny and wildy, so wildernessy. And it covers spring through to winter and gives you tips on like what things to grow and what good.
Sounds amazing.
It's incredible, and it's all
Might
about
need
like
to get me one of these.
it's amazing, and it's also like tips for using nature to better your mental health. So stuff like going out and forest bathing, or, you know, different recipes using natural things that you'd find in your garden that, you know, you can put in your bath or that you can drink, or, you know, it's
lovely.
Just amazing. Such a great book. So we'd massively recommend that. And thank you, Bell Blue Stocking. And in the spring section, because I originally read it in winter, but was, you know, getting pumped. So in the spring section, there's like a journal-y bit where you can write down all the things you're planning on growing and how it's going, and you can put your dates down. And I was like, when spring comes, I'm going to do it, just for the hell of it.
Good for you.
And I'm now obsessed. My poor Instagram followers on my personal account must be getting so fed up, because all I'm doing is like, look, the seeds are sprouting.
That's mental health though, baby. That's so good for your mental health.
As a fellow crazy plant lady, nothing better than a new leaf.
Right?
Absolutely.
Nothing better than a new leaf. Getting up in the morning, looking through all your plants. Yeah, like a little plant goblin like I am.
Plant goblin. I love it.
Oh, got a little new leaf. And yeah, my husband is very sick of me going, look at the calathea, she looks so well. Like, I don't care. I just don't care.
I love it. No, I'm exactly the same, because I don't have any pets. London living, rented living, sadness. So these plants are now my pets, and I'm obsessed with them. And because they're just growing, they can't be out in the cold too long. And so they've each got little hoods. And so I'll put the hoods on to begin with. And then if it gets too cold, every night I have to bring them in. I'm like, I'll just be right back. I've just got to go and get my plants. And then I go outside and bring them in.
I'm seeing you in like a little cardigan and like the full get up. I love
the little slippers.
Yeah.
I chat to them. It's just, I'm having so much fun. So that's what I'm
carry these things forward. I know so many people that have, you know, really started to appreciate their little bubble more. You know, we were so focused on getting out and traveling and going to other more exciting places, and I really hope that's something that we can carry forward, you know, out of the pandemic. I know that I will definitely. I actually was considering selling my house before the pandemic started, and I absolutely adore my house now. And I'm very glad that I didn't. So yeah, it's amazing how much your own mental state will dictate, you know, how happy you are in the place that you're in.
Hello, this is Ida Sanguin from yours truly, Invisible Cabaret. Today's been a really good day. Probably the first good day I've seen in about a month, which I'm extremely grateful for. All the pieces of the puzzle fit today, even if it won't feel like this for another X amount of days. At least today it felt like it, and I'm very grateful for that.
It's Mist Mustard Seed here, aka Lily. I am grateful this week for my wonderful sister Mary, who teaches me every day to be honest and to be kind. She's the best, and I miss her so much. But I'm so grateful to have her in my life, and for all her carers who are not only looking after her but also going the extra 100 miles to make sure that she's safe and she's having fun and she's happy, even through lockdown.
That's so lovely. Oh, that's great. Thank you so much for joining us, Rin. It's been a pleasure to have you.
Such a pleasure. Thank you so much for being gentle with me on my first time.
Oh no.
You would never know, but we are delighted that you popped your podcast cherry with us.
Thank you very much.
Amen.
If people want to find you and see what you do, where can they do that?
I am primarily active on Instagram when I'm not having a social media step out. Yes, predominantly on Instagram, which is at Sinopa Rin, all one word. My photography is at Lena Selkin Photography, also on Instagram, less active on there. I'm on Facebook, I'm on TikTok if you're a fellow raging feminist. Yeah, my TikTok's a little bit more angry than my Instagram, so
love it.
Stay away from that.
See this. Thank you very much to our listeners for joining us once again. It's been a pleasure to have you. As always, we will be back in 2 weeks' time. Until then, you can keep up to date with us on all of the socials, apart from TikTok, because we're not there. Instagram, Facebook.
Yet. Who knows?
Not there yet. Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. And if you wanted to send us something you're grateful for this week, you can contact us on any of those platforms, but also via email at invisiblecabaret@gmail.com. Until next time, thank you for joining us. Be kind to yourselves, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye. This has been the Invisible Cabaret podcast. Thank you for listening. If you've enjoyed this episode, please reach out to us on one of our many socials. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Just search Invisible Cabaret. We'd also be grateful if you could rate and review the podcast and share it with a friend so we can continue stripping away